Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Nate Cross. I'm the digital content specialist here at Troy. I'm excited to welcome you all to another installment of our Innovative Insights webinar series. These webinars will be taking place throughout the rest of the year and will be showcasing Troy's new products and innovations in secure document and printing space. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. If you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to ask them as you think of them in the chat window. But keep in mind, all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. If you're watching this on the web, please make sure to hit send or submit on your questions. You have to hit send or submit on both versions, but the web version can make it a little bit more difficult, so be on the lookout for that. Also, be on the lookout for a short survey that will be sent after this webinar where you can tell us how we can improve in the future. But today, I'm very excited for today's presentation. We have our own VP of Sales and Marketing, Ari Mellon, here to talk to us about our new solution in the banking financial industry, TellerCentral. This is a self-service machine that goes leagues beyond the ATM. But before I say anything or spoil the presentation, I will let Ari take over. Ari, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks very much. I'm going to just say hello on video to all my friends and partners that I know are here and have joined us. My hope today is that you may not have the exact excitement level that Nate and I have to start out this presentation, but at the end of this presentation, you'll have the same excitement level having learned about this incredible innovation that we're excited about as an organization and really looking forward to introducing to you today on this presentation. So with that, I will turn off my video. Excuse me one second. Nate, we're good? Looking good?
We are good.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Good morning again, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know that your time is valuable. These innovative insights that Eric and Nate have been putting on have really been capturing our audience interest and attention. We're trying to bring the most innovative insights into not only Troy's markets and the markets we serve and solutions, but also insights into what's happening in industries. And hopefully you'll see some of that today. Before I move forward into the innovation itself, I want to talk to you about our innovation as an organization. Troy's over 60-year-old organization, founded in 1963. We're a private company. We've remained private. That's allowed us a lot of flexibility as an organization. We're able to move quickly from an engineering perspective. We don't have some of the headwind that happens with big organizations. We're able to navigate very quickly around solutions that are necessary for the market. We've continued to innovate. It started from a chemical engineering perspective, mechanical engineering over time, and now, as you can imagine, where we are in the AI world and the blockchain world, a lot of our innovation is happening at the software level with software engineers, web developers. We have two different places of our organization. One is in Pittsburgh, where all of our engineers reside, the majority of our software engineers reside, and then in Wheeling, West Virginia, where the majority of our manufacturing and engineering around printers and firmware, toner, and different ink innovations are happening as well. So I wanted to start here. We're already Troy's already been in the banking space for many years, more than 30 plus years in the banking space, but specifically in the teller space. We provide a software solution for banks in the teller space that helps them automate their teller activities and have audit and compliance and controls around teller applications. It improves productivity, payment controls. They're able to stay on top of compliance. So this is a space, whether it's one of the largest banks, one of the 10 largest banks in the country, or a very small bank. We don't treat our banks differently. All of our banks, from a one location bank to a 10,000 ATM location bank, are our customers. We treat them the same with the same type of professionalism, quality, controls, security. This is a testament to the history of our company. So where you see hacks and major airlines and airports and governments shut down because of issues with security, you can rely on the fact that we stay stable in our security. That comes with a lot of testing and controls around making sure that we never release products that are unstable. SurePay Teller and working within the teller application is a prime example of that. So today I'm here to announce to some of you I know are already aware, of TellerCentral. TellerCentral is certainly something that's going to allow the empowerment of your customers by empowering your branch. This isn't just a tagline, although it is a tagline. It's not just a tagline, which means, we've moved Troy from manufacturing, chemical engineering, software development towards customer engagement. Why are we capable of going towards customer engagement? Because we've been delighting our customers for over 60 years. We do that through, again, stability in our products and solutions, professionalism in the way that we support our customers and partners. And we know that we have the most stable, secure solutions on the market. So a little bit of background around why there's been an acceleration in digital banking. Most of us all of us have experienced the pandemic. Many times we probably don't talk about it anymore, don't want to talk about it anymore, the masking and all the different certainly unfortunate events that happened. But what it did in the banking sector specifically was it drove consumers that were typically walking into branches to the desktop, to the mobile. And as consumers that had previously not embraced mobile banking and desktop banking, that shift continued and they didn't go back to the branches. So the banks are feeling the pain as a result of this. You have fintech competition going up against the banks, right? So you have the Cash Apps, the PayPals, MoneyGrams, Western Unions. These are all competing against the banks. The online loan services that are available. So the banks are under tremendous pressure to continue to engage with their customers, continue to have services with their customers. And the real issue we start to see in the teller shortages. Not only is there teller shortage, meaning a shift away from the ability to staff tellers, there is a desire to have those tellers turn more to bankers. But the real statistic in this is that teller jobs are projected to fall by 15% by 2032. So it's happening year over year over year, where there'll be 53,000 less teller positions available in banking throughout the United States, and that's significant. So as a result, banks are forming a transformation. So again, we'll talk about large banks, but this impacts even smaller banks. And I can refer to a one location bank in Torrance, California, that is looking at the same type of transformation that a larger bank is experiencing. Maybe the navigation is simpler for a smaller bank than the larger banks, but it's really hitting banks both large and small. So top banks, and this is all public information that you can see. Top U.S. banks like Capital One and Bank of America are experimenting with branches of the future, which includes cafe-style branches. Capital One's raised their cafe styles up to, I think it's over almost 100 cafe-style branches, and employee-less branches, meaning no employees in the branches. And Bank of America is testing this in multiple locations throughout the U.S. The problem or the obstacle or the opportunity in those scenarios in this transformation is the ATM builders, who are our friends, by the way. We have very strong relationships with the ATM manufacturers, both here in the U.S. and globally. They were preparing for something else. They were preparing for the integrated teller, where you'd be able to go to a device and be able to talk to a teller. But I don't think they anticipated fast enough how quick, which COVID certainly expedited, how quickly the transformation was going to come to the forefront. So if you look, and it's an easy search on the internet, if you take a look at ATM manufacturers, you'll see that the greatest application opportunity that they've added, other than the ITM, which is the integrated teller, is statement printing. So that's it. That's kind of where it ends. And that's not disparaging towards the ATM manufacturers. They have a lot on their plate with cash recycling and full ATM capabilities. But that doesn't answer the question that the banks are looking for, which is innovation that engages consumers, integration that moves from the teller to the device. So the evolution of the bank teller, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is, it's a universal banker. They're not only assisting the customers at the teller line, but also handling more complex tasks such as processing loan application, investigating account fraud, balancing vaults, and even the vault is going away fully. But this is really about, expanding the relationship and expanding the relationship. Things like the normal self-service applications that could happen, like negotiable instruments, cashiers, checks, federal draft issuance, money orders, and account opening. These take time away from being able to expand that relationship. They're more task oriented. So the rise of the connected consumer. So in 2024, trends in fintech will be defined by the rise of the connected consumer, right? So we're all living online on our phones, and whether it's social media or all of our banking and financial lives, they're on our mobile phones, they're on our desktops, and probably more so when you look at the millennials that are driving, and they are a driving force. It is at the mobile and at the phone. So consumers are growing accustomed to this lightning fast, affordable omni-channel experience from desktop to mobile, and they want it quickly. They don't want to wait, and they want it to be very easy and predictable and stable. Some of the key statistics. So, we don't like to, overemphasize statistics because, there's lots of them. But this one in particular stood out to us because it really resonates from what the banks are saying. And I will share with you that we have been meeting with banks, both large and small, not only that are our customers, but that are potential clients, certainly for this space. And we've been listening. The most important thing that we've been doing for the last 2 years is listening. We don't want to react too quickly. We want to make sure as we're developing solutions, customer engagement solutions, that we're listening vividly to not only the banks, but the consumers. So the 70% of the banks are saying it's more challenging to win and retain consumers and customers than a year ago. That puts a lot of pressure on banks to move quickly. If you're under pressure from fintechs, if it's harder to both retain and win new customers, the pressure's on, and it's now. 83% of banks rank corporate digital channels and trade services as a top investment priority. So this is coming very quickly. And the problem with it coming very quickly is, there's other banking realities that banks have to face. There's operational pain points. There's ATM fleets that are designed for cash. I mean, the ATM fleets, they provide cash. And I think most of us on the call today would, if you ask the question, when's the last time you went to the ATM and took out cash, it's dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. The market evolution is needed. The marketing evolution, is needed. So banks need to obtain services and expand their portfolios with consumers and their customers. And that typically happens at the mailbox. If we open up our mailbox, I'm sure on a weekly basis, there's some bank that's marketing to us. In our email, we have banks that are emailing us, but the problem is, everybody's emailing it. So emails become less and less effective. There are innovation challenges for the banks. So the banks need to have innovation at the branch. They need to have innovation at the desktop and the mobile. So there's a lot of pressure around innovation with the banks. And I'll talk a little bit about how innovation has changed with the banks in just a moment. So there is a self-service teller automation required. We're hearing that it's a resounding request from the banks. Again, this is small banks, single location. It doesn't have to be in California. It could be in Kansas. We've had conversations in Alabama. We've had, in all the states, we're hearing not only from the banking associations, but for the major associations of banking, that there is a demand and need that is being unfulfilled. The changing customer habits we've talked about, they've changed, they've moved. And the problem is that the bank hasn't been able to move with them. So they're trying to capture and move their innovation quickly so they don't lose more of the customers to the fintechs. The customer preference is evolving faster than the banks. I think this is very clear. There is still a main responsibility the banks have, which is stability, is reliability, is security. And the banks are under tremendous pressure with fraud. I think we're seeing that in normal transactions where you get fraud alerts, and I'm sure we've all had our banks shut down our account because they fear fraud. So the challenges that they're facing are preventing, as it is at the ATM level, them to be able to innovate fast enough to meet this self-service need that they're seeing come to them very quickly. And the branch transformation, I think Capital One, it'd be fair to say, is leading some of the branch transformation with their cafe styles. I'm going to give you a personal anecdote. I went and tested an account opening at Capital One just to see how easy it was. We needed another account in our family. And I will tell you that it was a nice experience. 2 of the iPads that they used for account openings didn't work. The third one worked fine, and it went fairly smoothly, I would say. I would recommend if you needed a Capital One account at a cafe that it still is a good process. But I did ask the banker. This is not a teller. It's you're sitting in an open environment or a glass room. What impact would it have if account opening was at the kiosk? And she said, "Oh, what a delight that would be. That would allow us to focus on, as I've discussed before, some of the more important banking relationships that do require time." So what does the future of banking look like? There's certainly this transformation from the branch. There's certainly transformations on security. There's an ATM evolution that has to happen. And there is certainly a core banking genesis that is and has happened that is all kind of coming together all at once. So in the ATM industry, to give you some insights into the ATMs, this is a $28+ billion market. There's some significant growth that's happening in that market. There's massive engagement that's still happening at the device, right? So it's not that, mobile and desktop banking is slowing down the engagement at the ATM. There's boasting over 10 billion US transactions annually. It's a testament to the widespread consumer reliance on ATMs or a device. There's an evolution for simple cash machines to functional service hubs. So more of the, transition from the cash relationship with an ATM to other services. It is technology driven. So if you can imagine, and this is what I'll ask you to do for the rest of this journey until the end, I'd like you to open up your imagination so that if you imagined a device that was an ATM is now a banking hub. And now when you walk up to that banking hub, it's not just the desktop banking that you're doing the desktop banking relationship that expands far beyond the bank into other financial transactions that still are within the confines of your trusted banking relationship. That's where I'd like you to start to imagine yourself going. The main consulting organizations of this country, McKinsey, PwC, Deloitte, all say that there is a strategic pivot that's coming right now in the convergence of a digital transformation strategies with banks. So this isn't just Troy telling you about this innovation. This isn't just the banks starting to clamor. This is now all the main consulting agencies are saying, hey, the banks have to move there. This digital shift is happening now. The pandemic has impacted. They're behind. The fintechs are winning. How do the banks get back into the game of delighting their customers, engaging their customers, improving on the overall customer engagement? Before I tell you exactly how you do that, I do want to tell you why there's the capability to do it today. So generationally speaking, and this is from a banking generation standpoint, we've moved from 1970 to 2020 through four major generations of banking solutions. So banking platforms, banking the way that banking platforms work, banking hubs. And we are now in this open API webhook world for banking, which has really opened the opportunity for banks to connect to many more software solutions, new innovative solutions. And they certainly have done a great job of that, from payment processing, from hooks into other things like Zelle and other processing. So the opportunity is there for the banks now with this Generation 4.0. But I will tell you that the banks that haven't been able to make the investment into new banking cores, because it's not cost, there is a cost associated with it. There is a time associated with it. We can still work with those banks. So even though you haven't worked on, you haven't jumped to the next, Fiserv banking core or the next NCR teller application, we're still here for you because we understand there is a bridge. Let's talk a little bit before we head into the final pieces of this until I tell you what the innovation is. There have been leaps, very big leaps in banking technology. We've all experienced it as consumers, and we probably don't remember when it happened. But does anyone, and I won't date myself too badly, but does anybody remember a world without ATMs? Because there was one. In our lifetime, there were no ATMs for a lot of us, not all of us. So the ATM was the first major banking innovation. And this was substantial on so many different levels, right? And what was the next banking innovation that happened? Because branches have been here for, hundreds of years, since, Wells Fargo and American Express weren't banks, they were couriers, and they were couriering between banks, for those of you that don't know. So, branches have been, here since the country began. So the ATMs were the big innovation. The next one was online banking, and the next innovation was mobile banking. Now I'm going to talk to you about the next greatest innovation, the fourth greatest innovation in banking. It's our belief that this will become the next innovation that banks and consumers will talk about for the future. It'll be something that it will resonate with everybody. It's already resonating in other industries. So you're experiencing this when you go to airports. You're experiencing this when you go to movies. You're experiencing this when you go to parking garages, when you go to order food in certain locations. The self-service kiosk is growing rapidly, not only domestically, but around the world. And today, I'm here to introduce to you TellerCentral, which is a self-service kiosk for banks. We don't typically use the word for kiosk for our banking application. The reason why is this is a very different platform. Kiosk, I can typically imagine there really isn't a theft opportunity at a kiosk. For banks, we want to make sure this is a secure device. So in many instances, this is a bomb-proof device. That would typically only happen when it's a full ATM, because typically we're making sure that the application level. So we do cashier's checks. We do sheets of checks. So we also do also called teller checks. We can print out bank statements. We can sign those bank statements and then scan them back into the device. And most of those are happening as plain paper. So there is a lack of security that's necessary at that point, other than the normal data security, which we certainly have the encryption, decryption, open API, webhooks into the banks, and the normal securities that you would expect. We also have the opportunity where you could have card printing. So there's card issuance that's available. These are very modular, so we are able to add full ATM capabilities. And as I mentioned, wet signature capture, meaning that you could open any type of relationship with a bank, from a loan to an account opening, sign, and then scan that back in. So this device, we are talking from a self-service perspective. Any application that the teller does today that a bank would like to transition into the self-service terminal, that's what our device is looking to capture and present. It's the branch in the box. So this fourth generation I mentioned about in banking that has arrived, it really is a platform revolution. So there's that agility and scale. I'll talk to you about how this device, I think if we walked up to almost any ATM in the United States, they're going to have a similarity. You know, we're very accustomed to an ATM having kind of the same screens, the same user interface, the same very clear buttons on how to transition from, deposit to withdrawal, savings, checking my balance, and then a receipt. But we're going to break some legacy barriers here. We're going to talk to you about this enhanced flexibility of the device that takes us far beyond anything that even banking is saying. Is this the banking hub of the future? And we're saying, you tell us, is this the banking hub of the future? And we've had a bank that has over 1,000 locations saying, I think this is the banking hub of the future. So you do that through APIs and advanced technology, working in conjunction with the banks, not only at the ATM level, not only at the CMO level, not only at the CTO levels. We're bringing all the bank's leaders in to talk about the evolution of customer engagement, customer empowerment that's about to happen, and it is future ready today. So this is about more accessibility, more engagement. There are diverse placement options. So these don't have to be built into the wall, although they could be built into the wall. They don't have to be just at the branch, although they can be just at the branch. They could be everywhere that your consumers and customers are. It can be at the pharmacy location. It can be at the grocery location. We've actually had a small bank, it's a single location, say, I'm going to open up 2 cafe branches with these devices, and I'm also going to take one of these devices and put it in City Hall. So small banks are thinking about flexibility. They're thinking about, how do I compete against the larger credit unions? How does the credit unions compete against the larger banks? And this is really about, things like custom brand wrapping. So it's not just the wrap of, ABC Bank. It's what service offerings do you have? Those service offerings can change by quarter, by month. They can change, on the screen. They can happen at the device. And again, this is future ready today. This isn't something you have to imagine that could happen someday into the future. This is now. But before, sorry about the one little typo over there on the left hand side. Um, so why choose Troy? I've talked to you. We've been in banking for over 60 years. We are a very trusted source, not only in the banks, not only in the U.S. Department of Treasury, across industry and accounts payables, across governments in the world. They trust us to secure their most sensitive documents. We have other solutions beyond this. Our secure document solution, Secure Docs. We have a FlexPay financial application that allows flexible payment options. We have a SurePay Teller, as I mentioned. So not only banks, governments, but companies, small and large, all the biggest logos you can think of depend on Troy, and they've been doing it for over 60 years at a consistent, secure level. We have reliable partnerships. So our partnerships with large organizations to help them evolve, to help them show innovation through our firmware development, our software development. Again, they're embedded within their products and solutions. So this is a very Troy-centered solution, but we do this in empowering other organizations very large throughout the world. These are some of our trusted relationships with thousands of banks. These are just a small sampling. As you can see, these are some of our largest banks in the United States, some outside the United States. But these are very intimate relationships that we currently have, just to substantiate who we do business with today. And the tail on that is very, very, very long. Over 10,000 customers over the last 60 years. We've engaged, supported, directed, worked in conjunction with banks, insurance companies throughout the world to help secure their documents. When we look at our banking expertise, this is somewhat of a wheel of software innovation and product innovation. The up in the left quadrant there, Troy FlexPay, SurePay Teller. These are software-driven applications that exist today in the banks. So we are very intimate with the banks. We are sitting, at the teller. We are sitting in the transaction level with banks. Our secure docs, you can see a couple below the Troy FlexPay. This is working within the governments for the most secure, highest level of document security that exists. This is embedded within TellerCentral. So we have the most innovative, most secure solutions that are embedded all in one place, which also includes the output of documents. So if you're going to output checks, you need to make sure those checks are the most secure. Fraud resistant, this is very important. There is no other technology on earth that is as fraud resistant from a micro check, paper check perspective than Troy. We have very patented technology that makes this the most secure technology in the world, and that will be embedded in our TellerCentral solution. So we are leveraging core software, and we are expanding on that core software. Again, this is open API. These are web hooks. This is working in conjunction with the integration teams within the banks. That piece, takes a little bit of time, but the reality is the true opportunity within the terminal is the fact that we're able to be very flexible as far as what the terminal output looks like, right? So, if you choose, meaning the bank or a partner working with the bank chooses that, we just want to output cashier's checks and bank checks, which is typically that 3-up checks off of your draft off of your account. If that's all that a bank needs, then that can work. That's easy, right? But if a bank says, we want this to be that banking hub, and we want it to do card issuance, we want it to do account opening, we want it to do loan origination, that exists as well. So the innovation happens at the software level. It happens in combination with the banks. And when you're looking at your ATM fleet, and as banks are looking at their ATM fleets specifically, and they're telling us this, they're seeing that less cash transactions, less engagement at the ATM. They're looking for a solution that brings that back. This is a solution that banks are looking to. This doesn't end only at the banking level. We're working both with, the governments, both federal and state and local governments. We are a leading software for healthcare. So we offer a plain paper prescription software that healthcare systems rely on. So you're not talking to an organization that's kind of just starting to come into the fray of developing some software, and we're new to this, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because new innovations are great for new companies and new logos that we're experiencing in our consumer life. But the reality is we're the stable, foundational security professional company that's been here for 60 years, that have been listening to consumers, that have been listening to banks, and we've stepped into this space to say, we're here to help you. We're here to transition you into the space that's the most important for you that maybe you don't have time to work on right now. So we're talking about secure printing. This is the lifeblood of our organization. We output checks. We create paper checks, both through our chemical engineering, our mechanical engineering, our innovation. There are anti-fraud measures that are embedded in our printers with a 30-year relationship with HP. We are a very unique company in the world. HP is over a $60 billion company. We're the only company in the world that can take an HP printer and we can apply certain Troy innovations to that printer, and it retains its original OEM warranty. This is a very, very unique relationship that we have with HP that's over 30 years old. So, the type of security levels that exist, from anti-fraud, this is big in banks, and enhanced physical and digital security. This will be embedded in TellerCentral. So then we get back to, okay, let's talk about customer interactions and the convenience of customers. I talked about the fact that you can place this in the wall, you can place this at the branch, you can place this no matter where you're thinking, in different locations, and the device will depend on that. And there's interactive, completely customizable user interface. We have normal NFC, comprehensive barcode, and comprehensive card reading, voice guidance and accessibility. These are ADA compliant, so that's very important for Americans with disabilities. And then operational efficiency. You can't walk up to an ATM machine and have it be down. If you're going to be reliant on this device, it has to be stable, and it has to also be serviceable. So the question we hear from banks is, well, how will I know if it's running low on paper? How will I know that it had a jam? Because jams are inevitable, whether it's at the teller or at the device. We have a lot of controls around this device, an endless amount of controls at the device that banks can see operationally the user interface of their entire fleet, and they can control their entire user interface from one desktop. Their entire user fleet from one desktop. The other piece on the service portion of this that I want to mention is when you think ATMs and ATMs transitioning to a banking hub, and I'll talk a little bit about why this is a banking hub, the service organization is very important to the banks. Many times the ATM manufacturer is the servicer of the ATMs. In other instances, there are national and regional service organizations that the banks rely on. All of those service organizations will be made available to the banks to consider in servicing TellerCentral. So the ones that you trust, that you have a trusted relationship, those will not change. So you don't want to have a different organization that you have to vet through the bank to be able to work within the confines of a very secure environment. We're going to make sure that you're able to leverage the service organizations that currently service your ATM fleet for your new banking hub solution. So here's where we get into the user interface being completely customized. So if you can imagine, this is the latest software, the latest operating system compatibility. There's a remote monitoring and assistance I mentioned to you. That can happen at a service level, or that can happen at a teller level. So the idea of an integrated, a remote teller being integrated into this solution as well does exist. The aesthetic design with high security measures. What that means is we don't confine the bank to say that you have to live within this user interface and it has to have these buttons. We want this to be open platform, open UI for you to be able to take the technology that you're leveraging for your desktop and your mobile applications, again, where now consumers are living, so that now when they go to the TellerCentral, they're seeing the same layout. They're seeing the same user interface. They're seeing the same journey that they enjoy, and that enlightens them while they're on the desktop and the mobile. So selecting your service, and this is where we get to a whole new place. You're able to output checks, cashier's checks, personalized from your account. Personalized bank statements can be printed. account opening statements, loan origination, and then there's investment options that you can go to from the device as well. So people spend a lot of time where they get delayed in airports and they get delayed in other places and they're waiting. Um, and maybe they look at this hub as a place where they can get banking done that's not just taking out cash, but it's an experiential thing that allows them to pay their bills. So maybe their bills are in their brief and they can just scan the barcode or the QR code of their bill, and they can just press pay this bill, and it inputs. So imagine the future with TellerCentral. So we have our standard offering out of the box, from the beginning today. Our standard offering is cashier's checks and teller checks and statement printing, and then it expands from a fully customized card issuance, full ATM, cash recycling, all of the teller applications that you can imagine. We've been able to start to look at transitioning over to TellerCentral. So we want to continue to have those conversations with banks on what are the ones that they want to move to self-service, what are the ones that they want to keep through a banker, and we are starting to customize our devices. I would almost say by week, by day, through conversations. We haven't come up against that's impossible. We've come up against that's we can do that. It's going to take some time. So I would say, we work from a fully modular, fully customizable, but we do have some offerings that are out of the box ready to go today. So what we're hearing from different sources is that the need for TellerCentral is crucial. The issues at the branches are wait times, consolidations, managing applications and peripherals. The terminal concept would definitely help us drive consolidation while improving wait times. This would set us apart. So banks are saying the quicker we can get to market with TellerCentral, the quicker we're going to start differentiating ourselves from other banks. We're hearing, a lot of interest is growing with top banking executives from, Singapore to Bangladesh to Hawaii to here domestically to other to CEOs of small to mid-sized banks to Ethiopia and again major banks here in the U.S. We're hearing, this would be complementary to our ATM fleet. This would be the perfect fit to replace a hard-to-staff teller line. Both the cafe and full-service locations would benefit from something of this nature. This is much needed and well-regarded solution for the Ethiopian branches. There is a group of 26 Ethiopian banks that are looking this as a full country implementation. The same thing we're seeing in France. So this is gaining very rapidly through banks throughout the world. And really, this kind of comes down to this moment. Looking at where your consumers have gone, they've gone to the web, right? They've gone to the desktop application, mobile application. Now with TellerCentral, it's a uniform experience. That journey is the same, and now you can delight and engage your customers. So when they're thinking mobile, they're thinking desktop, they're thinking TellerCentral. And the applications are limitless. The uniform UI, the opportunity to really expand your engagement with your consumers, to grow back what's been lost at fintech, to bring back technology, that next leap in technology from the ATM to the desktop to the mobile. It's now TellerCentral. It's here today in this device, and it's one of the most exciting innovations that we've been able to be a part of. Not only in banking, but in any industry. And we'll see this start to take hold in government applications and healthcare applications. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of the kiosking in healthcare as well. This is the solution for banking of the future. So with that, I want to thank you all for listening to me today. I hope we started out as me being the most excited person. And I hope some of you are as excited that I myself and Nate are when we started out this presentation. So with that being said, I'll turn it back to Nate.
Thank you so much, Ari, for presenting. Great stuff. We do have a couple questions here, if you don't mind answering, that we've got throughout the presentation. But to start it off, we did talk about it a little bit. But what's been the reception with banks when you've talked about TellerCentral to them so far?
I touched on it a bit. The first is, what took so long? Why hasn't this taken on? Why hasn't this been adopted in the U.S. previously. That's been a consistent theme in the conversations we've had with banks, small and large. We've always said that that banking core didn't allow for the integration. Firstly, secondly, the banks relied on that branch. They relied on that branch hub, and like other technologies, beyond banks and banking technologies, COVID expedited the speed at which all technologies leapfrogged the 5 to 10 year mark. So that pressure has come on quickly. So they're saying this is exactly what we needed. We have great relationships with our ATM partners and manufacturers, but there is certainly a gap, and this is wonderful to see.
Awesome. In terms of integration, what kind of integration do we typically see with TellerCentral? How does this get integrated with the bank?
Again, yeah, the banks are, they're relying on their integration teams. We have staffed our organization to make sure that we can meet the demands of the banks. So we work in firmware, we work in web development, we're working in open APIs in many of our solutions. So what I would say is, it's the banks. We want to make sure that we have the open API connectors into the banks. We have the web hooks that keep us fundamentally integrated into the banks, and making sure security first. It's making sure that dependent on the application, to answer your question, depends on the level of integration that's necessary. So in a simple statement printing, it's a much different integration than if you go into full cash, ATM recycling. That integration requirement is a different requirement, but it's about our integration teams working with the banking integration teams. We have the pre-sales engineers and post-sales groups there to support throughout the process.
Wonderful. And speaking of that, when TellerCentral is installed, who is going to service TellerCentral once it's installed?
It's a great question, Nate. We've had that question come up many times. Typically, the question comes in the form of, can we use our current ATM provider to service TellerCentral? And typically, the answer is yes. In the instance where maybe the service provider is not one of our top national providers, we can typically work with their provider to see if that opportunity exists. That is our foremost, is to make this as easy to integrate, easy to support, and easy to utilize by the consumer. So that remains one of our main focuses.
Love it. Easy all around. And in terms of customization for bank branding, how customizable can the TellerCentral machine get?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think the thing that's resonated and been I think what banks have, not what I think, but what I know in my experience with our engagement with banks that's happening by week, is the fact that it is so customizable. Not only from a branding, the exterior of the device, and it's not permanent branding. It could be temporary branding. You can move on to the next messaging. That part they love, and the fact that it will stand out. And this exists to some degree, but it hasn't existed where you really are addressing the customer problem. We've had partners, banking partners, very large ones, do tests with Walmart, do tests with Target, and they said they haven't been successful, even though they've had the branding, because the customer's not interested in just getting the cash. When they're at Target, they're not thinking about cash. When they're at Walmart, they're not thinking about cash, but they may be thinking about cashier's checks. They may be thinking about checks. They may be thinking about, oh, I need that statement printed because I have to, go to the next location. So the fact that you can bring that all together in a branded solution that is also a customer engagement banking hub, that even goes beyond banking, it's really a hub for the consumer. That's where the banks have said this is a very unique solution, and it's very exciting for us.
Awesome. And two final questions here, two great questions. We got, are we able to test a unit?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes, depending on the level of customization that's required. We've had this question is coming fast and furious to us by week. Banks are saying we'd like to get this into testing with our integration teams as fast as possible. And the answer is yes. So in South Point, an area of Pittsburgh called South Point, we have a technology center, a banking solution center with a number of our devices there. I welcome everybody that's on this call to come and visit that center because then it starts to get the wheels moving on what this looks like. Typically, we have devices that are available, meaning in stock in our base configuration. Again, remember, this is modular, very customizable, but we do have a base configuration that's available for testing. If banks want to customize, really customize the idea of card issuance, integrated teller, cash recycling, ATM full capability, they want to really move into this real banking hub. It's just going to take us a little bit more time to customize, and then it depends certainly on the size and scope of the opportunity. But we want to give the banks every opportunity to test and see that this is a real solution for the future.
Wonderful. And final question, I think most of our audience is wondering, how soon will this product be available?
Well, the product is that's a great question, and that's one that's asked by the banks every day. So we were in pre-concept phase for the better part of almost a year. So we didn't just go to market with this product and say we're ready. We've been building different iterations, testing different interfaces, testing different devices, making sure that the modularity can happen not only at the security layer at the device, but at the software layer. I know this is a long-winded way to answer your question, but we've arrived at the point where integration is the only thing that's preventing from implementation. So I would say when banks are ready and they want to get their integration teams or start talking, we can get to market with this product. We will be testing this in banks in the next 30 to 60 days. So it is going to be starting to be tested at the bank integration level. So we're ready. We're really close. There's nothing to say that we're not ready today. We're just making sure we take our time because honestly, the demand already in just the last 60 days has become so great that we're making sure that we're able to meet the demand over time. So the only hesitation we have is how far do we open this up and can we meet the demand of tens of thousands of TellerCentrals going across the United States and across the world. So I would say let's have a conversation and see where you are in your process, see where you are in your interest, and that will determine our ability to meet the demand of the specific bank. But we're ready today to start those conversations.
Awesome. Things are in movement. Banking transformation is upon us with TellerCentral. All right, that's all the questions we have, but do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I haven't been more excited about a presentation than I was at the beginning of this presentation. I don't take notes. I didn't take notes. I mean, I'm talking to you as though, just straight from my heart and from my experience. I hope that resonated across both to the partners I know that are good partners of ours that are on the phone, some of our banking customers and prospects that are on the phone as well. I can't be more excited about providing a solution that really solves a major problem in an industry, in a sector that, really is very important to us. I hope that we've listened to our customers. I hope we've listened to our partners. I hope we're hearing what banks need. And I believe that this solution is not only one of the most secure, stable solutions, but one of the most innovative solutions that banking has seen in the last 50 plus years. So I hope you're excited with me now, or at least very curious. We'll definitely make sure you know where to find us, and you'll be hearing from us soon. And Nate and Eric, thank you very much for your contributions to this presentation. And everybody, thank you very much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ari. Before we go, I just want to say thanks for attending, everyone on this webinar on TellerCentral. Be on the lookout for the survey that's going to go out after this. This webinar will be on YouTube, so you can go to Troy's channel after this to rewatch anytime you want. You can also go to tellercentral.com for more information, or Troy's website. We got a ton of great content on TellerCentral. You can read, you can learn. We got a lot of great stuff coming. Ari, thank you again, and thanks everyone for attending. We will see you next time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.